I sat in the lawyer's office, pen in hand, about to sign the documents that would change everything. 12 years ago, my father looked me in the eyes and said, "You just do not have what it takes to run this business, son." He had no idea what I had been building in the shadows. The company he handed to my brother was worth millions. Every product they sold, every innovation that kept them ahead of competitors, all of it came from my mind. But to understand this moment, we need to go back to where it all began. Before I continue, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If stories about patience, resilience, and knowing your worth speak to you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This story is about waiting for the right moment when no one else believes in you. Stay until the end, because the moment my father realized what he had lost is something you will not want to miss. Growing up in a small town outside of Columbus, Ohio, I learned early that love in my family came with conditions. My father, Gerald, built Whitmore Manufacturing from the foundation my grandfather left behind. By the time I was born, the company employed around 80 people and generated roughly $15 million in annual revenue. Things most people never think about but use every single day. My brother Marcus came into this world 4 years before me. From the moment I could understand language, I noticed how differently our father treated us. Marcus had his eyes, his jawline, his confidence. When Marcus walked into a room, our father stood a little taller. When I walked in, he barely looked up from his newspaper. My mother was different. Her name was Vera, and she was the only person who ever made me feel like I belonged in that house. She would find me in the garage, taking apart old radios and broken appliances, and instead of scolding me, she would pull up a chair and ask what I was building. She bought me books about inventors, took me to science museums on weekends, stayed up late helping me with projects for school. She saw something in me that no one else bothered to look for. When I was 14, cancer took her from us. I remember standing at her funeral watching my father comfort Marcus while I stood alone by her grave. That was the day I understood that whatever warmth existed in our home had been buried alongside her. The years that followed made the divide between Marcus and me impossible to ignore. My brother became captain of the football team, the most popular kid in school, the son my father bragged about at every business dinner. Dad never missed a single game. He would leave work early, sit in the front row, cheer until his voice went hoarse. I took a different path. While Marcus threw footballs, I spent my nights in the garage building circuits and designing mechanical systems. Junior year, I entered the state science competition with a device. I had invented a small mechanism that could improve efficiency in manufacturing processes. I won first place. The local newspaper even ran a story about it. My father did not attend the ceremony. When I came home with the trophy, he glanced at it and said, "That is nice, son. Put it somewhere out of the way." He always had the same explanation for why Marcus received his attention and I received his indifference. "Marcus has the charisma, the leadership," he would say. "He is a natural." "You are smart, Damien, but smart does not run a company." The moment that crystallized everything happened when I was 16. I had been working on a device in secret, something I believed could genuinely help the family business. It was a small improvement to their valve assembly process. Nothing revolutionary, but it would save time and reduce errors. I was nervous and excited when I finally showed it to my father. He examined it for maybe 30 seconds. Then he handed it to Marcus, who had just walked into the room. "Marcus, take a look at this. See if the engineers can use it." Marcus turned it over in his hands like he was evaluating fine art. "Not bad," he said. "I will bring it to the team tomorrow." 2 weeks later, the device was implemented on the factory floor. At the next company meeting, my father praised Marcus for his business instinct and his ability to identify opportunities for improvement. My name was never mentioned. I sat in the back of that meeting room watching my brother accept credit for my work, and something inside me shifted, not broke. Shifted. I began to see my family clearly for the first time. When high school ended, our paths diverged in ways that would shape everything to come. Marcus enrolled in a prestigious business school. Our father paid every dollar of tuition, bought him a brand new car, set him up in a nice apartment near campus. The pride in his voice when he talked about Marcus starting college was something I had never heard directed at me. I wanted to study mechanical engineering at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. When I told my father, he barely looked up from his desk. "MIT is expensive," he said. If you want to waste time with gadgets, do it on your own dime. So I did. I applied for every scholarship I could find, wrote essays until my fingers cramped, interviewed until I could recite my accomplishments in my sleep. I got in with a full academic scholarship and 2 part-time jobs to cover living expenses. For 4 years, I lived in a tiny apartment, survived on instant noodles and coffee, and studied harder than I had ever studied in my life. I graduated at the top of my class. The ceremony was held on a beautiful spring day, families crowding the lawn, cameras flashing everywhere. My father did not come. He sent a text message that morning, "Congratulations. When are you coming back to work at the company?" That was it. No pride, no acknowledgement of what I had achieved on my own. Just an assumption that I would return and take my place in his shadow. Against my better judgment, I went back. Part of me still hoped that maybe with a degree from MIT and proven abilities, things would be different. I joined Whitmore Manufacturing in the Research and Development Department. My salary was less than half of what Marcus earned, even though he had accomplished nothing beyond being born first and looking like our father. The next 5 years taught me lessons no university could offer. I threw myself into my work, staying late, coming in on weekends, pushing the boundaries of what our products could do. In that time, I developed 7 major innovations that transformed the company. The first was a complete redesign of our flagship control valve system. The original design had been in use for 15 years, and it was showing its age. I spent 6 months analyzing every component, identifying inefficiencies, reimagining the entire structure. When I finished, the new system reduced manufacturing costs by 30% and improved reliability by a factor of 3. Then came the automation software. Our competitors were starting to incorporate digital controls into their products, and we were falling behind. I taught myself programming languages, studied systems integration, and built a proprietary software platform from scratch. It became the backbone of our entire product line. My third major contribution was a durability coating I developed after months of experimentation. Products treated with this coating lasted twice as long as anything our competitors offered. Customers started specifically requesting the Whitmore coating without knowing it even had a name, let alone that I had invented it. Each success followed the same pattern. I would present my work to the leadership team. My father and Marcus would nod, ask a few questions, then announce the innovation at the next company meeting as a team effort, or more often as evidence of Marcus's vision for the company's future. At the annual company celebration, 3 years into my tenure, my father stood at the podium and delivered a speech I will never forget. "I want to thank my son Marcus," he said, "for the innovations that have positioned Whitmore Manufacturing as an industry leader. His instincts, his drive, his commitment to excellence have made all the difference." I sat at a table in the back corner, nursing a glass of water, watching my brother accept applause for work he could not even explain if asked. An older employee named Walter, who had been with the company since my grandfather's time, leaned over and whispered to me, "Everyone knows it is you, son. But knowing does not change anything here." He was right. Knowing changed nothing, so I decided to change the game entirely. It started in my second year, when the pattern of theft became impossible to deny. I consulted with a lawyer named Harold, someone I had found through careful research, known for his expertise in intellectual property law. I explained my situation, and he listened without judgment. "The question," Harold said, "is whether these inventions were created within the scope of your employment. If you develop something on company time using company resources, it belongs to the company. But if you create it independently on your own time, with your own equipment, you can file for a patent in your name." That conversation changed my life. I bought equipment for a workshop in the garage of my small apartment. Every night after work and every weekend, I retreated there to develop my ideas. I kept meticulous records, timestamps, photographs, documentation that proved beyond doubt that my inventions were created independently. Then I would bring the concepts to work and propose them as ideas worth exploring. The company implemented them eagerly, never suspecting that every blueprint, every line of code, every chemical formula was already protected under patents filed in my name. By the time 5 years had passed, I held 11 patents covering the core technologies that made Whitmore Manufacturing competitive. Without my valve system, their flagship products would not function. Without my software, their automation capabilities would collapse. Without my coding, their durability claims would become lies. I told no one, Not my coworkers, not my few friends, not even the woman who had become the center of my world. Sophie entered my life on a quiet Tuesday evening at the public library. I was researching material science journals, and she was grading papers at a nearby table. She taught third grade at an elementary school across town, and she had the kind of smile that made you forget whatever problem you had been trying to solve. We started talking about books, then about life, then about everything. She was the first person since my mother who seemed genuinely interested in who I was rather than what I could do for them. She did not care about money or status or family names. She cared about kindness, about integrity, about showing up for the people you love. I told her about my family, about the years of being overlooked, about the quiet rage that had become my constant companion. She listened without trying to fix anything, without offering empty platitudes. She just held my hand and let me be angry. One night I came home later than usual, exhausted and bitter after another meeting where Marcus had claimed credit for my work. Sophie was waiting on the couch with 2 cups of tea. "Why do you keep trying to prove yourself to people who refuse to see you?" she asked. I sat down beside her, feeling the weight of the question. Because I need to know I did everything I could. When I walk away, I want it to be my choice, not because I gave up. She took my hand and held it tight. Then I will be here when that day comes. That conversation sustained me through the darkness that followed. The day everything changed began with an invitation. My father was turning 60, and he had decided the time had come to step back from the company. He called a formal meeting to announce his succession plan. After 8 years of dedication, 8 years of carrying the company's innovation on my shoulders while receiving none of the recognition I allowed myself to hope. Maybe finally he would see what I had contributed. Maybe age had brought wisdom. The meeting was held in the main conference room at headquarters.